Looks like I have a light tattoo. Listen to that. It's the sound of eternity. So, happy 1 year of self-dialogue, me. And I can't think of a better way to celebrate than in my new favorite park with all the trees and the lights shimmering through them. And my love whistle. I wonder if the trees recognize that sound. I wonder if they make that sound so quiet and imperceptible. So a lot has happened in a year. I've tapered off medications, lived my dream of going to California. And I'm in the process of creating and living out new dreams, day by day, moment by moment. And understanding that things change. It's difficult to plan. For example, I'm going to be in a very beautiful forest on Friday, and that could very well alter the course of my life. Maybe I'll have to be near that forest or a similar forest after. So to think I can plan my life today, it can change so quickly because I'm designing my life daily, and then living out the design changes where I might go next. And I spoke with Katie Mottram on the phone today, briefly, over Zoom. And then her internet cut out, so we'll have to chat again another day. I'd like to know more about her Emerging Kind project. And it's cool that she's creating that. And it's congruent with whatever it is I'll eventually get to creating, because I feel like whatever it is, it's a mixture of creativity and altruism, which is kindness. Kind gestures. Kind gestures towards our own body. I feel like it's a lot about gestures. And I don't even know what to say. I don't even know how to sum up this year. My mind has trouble retrospecting. It has more flow with expecting and designing it in a way of non-expectation, non-expectant, expecting. And I was starting to share with Katie Harvest Practice Embody when it cut out, and so we'll talk about that later, but it gives me a clue of what to talk about. And I am thinking about creating a course of some kind to sum things up. I don't know if I'll be able to do it, and I don't know if I will end up doing it. It seems I default to living and making a video or so during the day. And when my brain feels a bit stuck, I go to the forest. So yeah, nothing too exciting, yet everything exciting at the same time. I think I made so many videos yesterday that it hurts to hold up my arm. My arm's getting tired, so I might have to whip out the old selfie stick. I think I have a crappy one somewhere. Might have to add that to my magical backpack so I can walk and make videos when I want. That's the cool thing about my self-employment of talking to myself is I can work outside, I can work when I want, and it's play and it's fun, and I can make videos walking or sitting down or standing, and I can edit them when I'm walking, sitting down, or standing. Yesterday I edited videos while doing 2 laps of this park. This morning I started pretending that I could design some kind of more succinct course, because I've talked to myself for probably going on 200 hours on video now, and I would think that I might be able to create something that is summarized, because it's a lot of me talking to myself. And I wrote this, and so I was trying to break it down into several parts. And the first one is safety, because living in these new ways can feel unsafe at times, and it's a process that doesn't guarantee survival, and neither does daily life. Anything can happen at any moment, whether one is going through some kind of transformational process or just walking down the street. So making it through isn't guaranteed, and none of us are going to make it through at the end. But I feel like we can create safety for ourselves using different tools that make us feel safe, and we can be very creative with this. What makes me feel safe and what's helped me over the last couple years is having some kind of PRN antipsychotic, having also a zap strap so I can keep myself safe, somewhere keep my body safe if I start experiencing things that aren't really congruent in my mind. And then a lot of times it's just the gesture of knowing that that is there that keeps me feeling safe, and I don't actually have to carry that out. Oh, some kind of insect just pooped. This could be a sign from the universe. What was your altruism? So I'm going to skip ahead to step 4, which is harvest, practice, embody, and what was your altruism? Because the universe, via some kind of insect excrement, wanted to highlight that point. And harvest, practice, embody is something that is ongoing. One can recognize elements from the magic state in daily life when one doesn't feel like one is in the state of magic. Maybe I could use the word you or we. I like the word we. And then step 2 is designing your dreams, and I've realized that that could possibly be a good step too, and I welcome your feedback on this, because now that I've transcended and I'm no longer on medications and not needing to involuntarily participate in the mental health system, and that energy is freed up from worrying about all of that and feeling like one day I would like to transcend, I'm realizing, how do I live? What is life all about now that I don't need to refer everything to mental health that happens in my life? So I feel like I could have benefited from designing that while tapering off medications. And so this is for people who want to taper off or who have tapered off or are dreaming of that one day. And gestures of moving towards those dreams even before one has transcended, because I feel like part of what helped me live the dream of tapering off medication was moving towards and carrying out my dream of going to California. So I might have thought, well, when I taper off medications one day, if I ever do, and I'm out of the system and I'm feeling good, then I'll go to California. Well, I went to California a couple weeks after I had a major mental health crisis. And I feel like by living my dream, that was a big gesture towards my being that it was time to live my other dream of no longer depending on psychiatric medications. And I liken this a little bit to Stephen Kotler's story. And he wrote a book called Stealing Fire with Jamie Wheel, and he's doing flow research. And he shared in one of his talks how he had Lyme disease and he could barely move. He was so tired. But his friends forced him to go surfing, and he could barely surf. But as he was able to surf a little bit more and a little bit more, he healed from Lyme disease. So basically, he was able to surf before. So by doing something that was part of his flow, which was surfing, something that was really challenging to do considering he had this Lyme disease that was very debilitating, his whole life healed. So by me, I went to California, which was my dream, even though technically it was a little bit risky because I was on meds, I had just had a crisis, but by doing that, that was the equivalent of surfing. It was me surfing my dream and living my dream, and then by living my dream, other dreams came true at the same time. Just like by Stephen Kotler going surfing, his body healed even though he was doing something that was very challenging for his body. So by doing something challenging for me, which was living my dream of going to California, other elements of my life healed. So by designing one's dreams and beginning to live it, I feel that is a gesture of giving the whole life of a person permission to start healing, which could include tapering off medications as well. Because the thing too is, if I'm on meds and I'm staying at home and isolating myself, that whole little situation is going to be reinforced in my brain and confirm that that's what needs to continue. But by moving about and starting to live my dreams, the nightmare of being a chronic mental patient for the rest of my life fell away. So Stephen Kotler did something physical to heal his physical ailment. I did something in the realm of dreams, of living my dream in order to heal the nightmare of managing my life with psychiatric medications. And not only that, by starting to live my dreams, and then I tapered off the meds, which was another dream, now I'm realizing, wow, I really have to design the life of my dreams that's beyond the dream of tapering off the meds. Now I feel completely free to design the life of my dreams. So that part, knowing that by starting to live one's dreams and then tapering off, one is completely free to design the life of one's dreams. One can start designing that life. We can start designing that life before we have tapered off, so we are acknowledging and understanding that we can live that and that we're designing it as we're tapering, so we have an understanding of the map of our life that we're creating as we're tapering off. So it's not, wow, all of a sudden I'm free of the mental health system and I don't know what the heck to do with my life because I've been trapped in this limited framework for so long and I forget. And part of this is related to safety and design, which is the relanguaging and the recontextualizing, which is part of self-dialogue and talking oneself out of the nightmare and into the dream. And that's what I've shown in this 1.5 year process, or technically it's 1 year today officially, but it did sort of start June 20th. So yeah, it's all flowing together. And part of Harvest Practice Embody is thinking back to some experiences in order to create new context around those experiences, and that context helps to be a buffer for any new experiences or material that comes into consciousness. And part of lifestyle design is creativity, and it's also altruism. And I remember reading in a study done, or a paper done by Roger Walsh, that we feel better when we do something for other people. So if that's true, designing in altruism into one's life plan and lifestyle design could be important. And then 5 is alternatives and options, which could include micronutrients in order to taper off. So these first 4 steps are partly designing why taper off. Well, if I taper off, perhaps I can live the life of my dreams. Because in recent history, being a part of the mental health system, I haven't been living the life of my dreams. I've been living a nightmare of a life. So when we start to design that, we get excited. It gives a good reason why to taper off. And then we start to look at alternatives and options. And there's a lot out there. I personally have used Hearty Nutritionals, micronutrients. And then step 6 is the epigenetic matrix. And it's tied into design, and it's also tied into harvest, practice, and body. And the last is sharing gifts. And today I was starting to make some notes about possible videos to make in the future, like how to shop at Value Village, get a wardrobe that makes one feel good on a budget. And I've also been thinking about some of the products that I love, like a squatty potty. As simple as that is. And I created a really good document to share with somebody, and I haven't shared it yet. But it's very linear, it's very logical, it makes sense. It helps me make sense of a few things that I want to look into in the coming months. Like some of these conferences and things like that. And I'm wondering if I can do the same sort of thing for this synchroversity idea. And I'm having trouble with it, so the timing might not quite yet be right. But one of the things for sure, as I listen to that little hummingbird, is that I remember saying, I want my 25 years back, because studies show that we who are in the mental health system die 25 years early. So I want to help people get their 25 years back, whatever that takes. And I've earned my 25 years back by tapering off the meds. But what am I going to create with those 25 years and the years that I already had left? One can vegetate on medications, but one can also vegetate on micronutrients. So learning how to live and create and be altruistic and activate one's epigenetic matrix. And I'm going to start carrying around my bag of chocolates again. I just buy a big bag of Costco dark chocolates and offer those to people sometimes. It's a gesture. And I found a list of questions I made for myself, and I think I was looking at them last November and then forgot. So I might create a document with some of those questions. Some of my top questions are: what would a manic do? How am I contagious? And what is the world asking of me? Because those relate to action. One is the action of one's energy. How am I contagious? The other is the action of doing. What would a manic do? And then the other is bringing some of those actions in alignment to be congruent with what the universe and the world is asking of us. So world centricity. And I'm thinking about designing my magical backpack. I ordered the backpack itself online, and then what would I put in that backpack, which are my creative tools, things for gestures of kindness like the chocolates, and also items for safety. So making the course into something that we carry with us. So then we are that moment to moment, and we can ask ourselves in the moment, what would a manic do? And we have a tool to carry it out. We can ask ourselves, how are we contagious? And we have something to change how we're contagious. And we can also act in alignment with, what is the world asking of me? I carry a lot in this bag. This is my magical backpack right now. And even though I keep putting more and more stuff in it, it doesn't seem to feel heavy. Maybe it's like Mary Poppins' bag, where she pulls all this stuff out of there that shouldn't even fit in there. So maybe I'll do a video on what is in my current magical backpack, and also add some items when I get the actual magical backpack. Because the course I want to design really isn't about mental health or mental illness at all. Perhaps it's for people who are preparing for that creative energy to come in, or who want to harvest, practice, embody before they even have a transformational crisis. So that way they have some of those tracks laid down in their neurophysiology, so when that energy comes in from the universe, it doesn't feel really foreign. And this would be a type of random decontravisions, to decontrive ourselves before that energy comes in from the universe in order to do that. So it could also be for people who have been labeled with a mental illness, with the understanding that maybe it's not that. This has nothing to do with a medical problem at all. It's translated into a medical problem. Anything can be translated into a medical problem. And I also thought about creating a magical notebook to go with the magical backpack. So the magical notebook is to help one go from manic to magic. It's transformagical, and it'll have the questions, it'll have learning about one's traits that happen when that energy comes in, harvest, practice, embody, a daily journal, making notes of the magical synchronistic things that happen in life in order to get the brain oriented towards that and get the salience network going in the brain. So these would be elements that would activate all that. So I want to make the course about that, because I've done so much talking about all the other stuff that it's already there, and I don't want to retrospect about it. And I'll continue to talk to myself about creating this along the way. So yeah, I don't really want to create something about mental illness. There's a lot of great stuff out there. I want to create something for transcendence, and it might help people transcend. But hopefully it'll help people bypass this mental health system altogether and never end up being labeled and interpreted by some kind of professional medical person ever. So yeah, I don't really want to make this too long today, but I want to give myself a sense of the flavor of the direction that I'm going. And I think sharing the process of creating my own magical backpack and magic notebook and collecting some magic crap to put in the backpack could be enough. And it's really something to be able to wander with love. And to be prepared to make kind and loving gestures in all situations. and I'm going to donate blood tomorrow, and I really hope they don't reject me for any reason, like underweight or low iron or anything like that. It's time to continue my walk. I'm editing my video, and I said something really important. We can be creative with how we create safety for ourselves. And I've been creative in that. For some reason, a Zap strap makes me feel safe. And when we're not creative in how we create safety for ourselves, we rely on the safety of the mental health system. We rely on the psych ward. So we can be creative with everything, including how we create safety for ourselves. Otherwise, we rely on a whole system to make us feel safe. I just realized something else important listening to myself. I've been using harvest, practice, embody, and I've been a bit dicey about the word practice because I don't like practice in terms of force or creating a pattern to follow. Obviously, it's harvest, gesture, embody. It took me a whole year to realize that. It's better. I was just listening to myself talk about how living one's dreams gives the rest of one's life permission to heal. And I was thinking that maybe our main problem in life is that we don't know how to live. We're not living life. We're managing life. We're planning life. We're coping with life, but we're not living life. We don't know how. So when I really lived my life and I went for my dream of California, it got rid of all those problems because I was living life beyond problems. It erased all the problems because I did that which we're designed to do, which is live life. So can we design living life? And does that erase problems? As then we're fulfilling that which we are innately designed to do. Living life heals life. I just realized too, when I was talking about how my bag doesn't feel heavy, though there's a lot in it, I feel like the items that are in the bag make me go strong, according to the principles of applied kinesiology or muscle testing. So if I have something in my bag that makes my nervous system go weak, it's going to make the bag feel heavy. But I can put more in there when they're items that make my nervous system go strong. And that makes my body strong, so I can carry a lot more. This morning I'm doing the double disgusting whammy. Haritaki powder in coconut milk and turmeric in coconut milk with a bit of pepper. And believe it or not, this is going to be the chaser, because this one tastes really bad. This seems like a different type of drink bar. This is what I make for my morning smoothie. Moringa powder. I'm just using up some of this nopal. When the jar is finished, I'll have no nopal. Spirulina, this stuff stinks. Flax seeds. And somewhere in there I take a spoon of coconut oil. I have a little bit left of this chocolate baking powder. I like the vanilla better. Spoon. Organic blueberries from Costco. So that's pretty much it. And I have this fancy blend tech that was gifted to me. I like how it has a touch screen. And I've used it, I think you saw that, 1,099 times. That's a lot of smoothies. I learned from, what's that guy's name? To chew your smoothie. I'll think of his name later. In 4 minutes, I have an appointment to donate blood. I hope they don't reject me for low body weight or low iron or anything else like that. And yesterday, for some reason, the thing that Jason Silva often mentions, which is the hedonic adaptation, where we get adapted to pleasure, so we're always looking for the next best thing and more pleasure. I was wondering if we can switch to an altruistic adaptation where we always need to be more and more giving and caring and loving and altruistic and sharing with others and doing what we can do. Can we adapt ourselves to oxytocin and then need more oxytocin so we're always more giving and sharing, as opposed to being addicted to the dopamine pleasure response of personal pleasure, which is a mind game? It doesn't really contribute anything to world centricity. So yeah, I was thinking of an altruistic adaptation, but that's beneficial to all. It's world centric. So today is the first day after the 1-year anniversary of my self-dialogue, and this is when I have my appointment to donate blood, which is something altruistic. I remember reading that it saves 3 lives. So today I'm going to save 3 lives. Bloodmobile.
your fist. Take a deep breath. Relax your head. It's okay.
Happening. I got approved. My hemoglobin was 150 and I'm a vegetarian. It's really good. I think it's the micronutrients. Dr. Mercola's book, Fat for Fuel, talks about how iron Right, sorry. I'm in the recovery position now. I felt kind of nauseous. Ooh. So I just finished donating blood and I had a bit of a nausea reaction. So I had to sit there for an extra period of time. But all in all, it went well. And I was about to say that in Dr. Mercola's book, Fat for Fuel, he talks about how too much iron isn't good. He talks about how iron is something that speeds up the aging process. And that was something that I'd never heard before or read before. And he recommends in his book one of the ways to get rid of that excess iron is to donate blood. And I've been wanting to donate for a while, but I did something on the list of you can't do that and then donate blood. So I couldn't donate blood, and then I was in California. So now I'm back and enough time had passed where I could donate blood. So I did it. And the cool thing about this is that the last time I donated blood was December of 2013. I think I was one of the last people to donate in Canada, if not the last person to donate that year, because I had the last appointment and I was on the West Coast. And then it was the New Year. I think I did it New Year's Eve or something. But last time I donated blood, I was on lithium and trazodone and Zoloft. And they still took my blood. Those are on the list of acceptable medications. But it's really cool this time to not have to declare taking it. But it's really cool this time to not have to declare taking But it's really cool this time to not have to declare taking any medications, because I'm not taking any medications, and whoever it is that gets my blood is going to get some super clean blood and super healthy and super micronutrited, and they're going to feel great even if they're in some kind of circumstances where they unfortunately need somebody else's blood. So yeah, it feels good to donate clean blood, and then also donate to get rid of some of the excess iron. And I can't remember what the hemoglobin thingamajiggies are, but I'm pretty sure last time I donated it was something like 133, and today it was 155. And I'm a vegetarian, so I think a lot of that is from the Hearty Nutritionals. Hearty Nutritionals does have iron in it, which is a little bit different than what Dr. Mercola would say. He might say don't put iron in a supplement or don't take extra iron. But the cool thing is I can give away the extra iron I get from the Hearty Nutritionals by donating blood. So I made another appointment for December 5th. So this benefits me in that I get rid of some of the excess iron. I'm not sure if it'll affect me in any negative way because I won't have the same blood volume. Maybe I don't need as many micronutrients because I have less blood. I don't know. I'll keep taking the same amount and see what happens. And I'm supposed to rest for the rest of the day. But I'm going to go get some gasoline. And my right arm is the one that I donated blood out of, because that's the one, the vein is in the middle of my arm. On my left arm, it's on the side, kind of. It's not quite in the middle. So I want to make some beet juice because beets are good for blood, but I don't know if I can peel and cut up the beets, so we'll see if somebody else can do that for me. Or maybe they have beet juice at Jugo Juice. I'm going to check their online menu. Actually, it's Booster Juice that is nearby me. So I'll check that out. Maybe go stop and get some beet juice. And drink lots of alive water, lots of swirl water, lots of structured water. And yeah. And this goes along with what I was saying before I went in there. Can I have this positive reflex? Can I have this positive feedback loop of an altruistic adaptation, feeling like I need to give and share more and more and more, and donating blood once every 3 months just isn't enough. It's not enough to cut it. I have to be more kind, more generous, and by doing that, I get so much oxytocin, so it benefits me because we're all connected, we're all one, we have mirror neurons. What we do to others, we do to ourselves. There is no difference. The mind doesn't know if we're imagining something or doing something. So if we do good things, it's really calculating that and feeling that. And the whole of the cosmos is feeling that. And it is fed back through the epigenetic matrix. The whole universe responds to our smallest gestures of kindness towards self and others. And there is no self and no others. It's all one. I'm still resting and recovering after donating blood. Feeling a little lightheaded. So I'm laying down, and I took the opportunity to watch most of the Apple event, unveiling the new phones and Apple Watch and things. And I think I'm pretty sold on the iPhone 10. The main selling point for me is having access to the Animoji turd. I have a Bitmoji and I chose the turd shirt. So, yeah, Animoji turd, big selling point. I think it's worth the 1,500 Canadian dollars plus all the accessories. Starting November 3rd, My self-dialogue will be a turd. Maybe that's how I want to design my course, a talking turd. It's time to make some dinner. This is my quick, healthy. I steamed some broccoli. And I then add one of these. These are really tasty and they're vegetarian. And they don't have preservatives and stuff. No MSG. And then I throw in a bunch of goat cheese, crumble that up, and it tastes really good. And it's pretty healthy. I don't want to eat cheese forever, but right now, if it's cooked food and the vegetarian I'm doing, this works for me. And I'm not really making sense because of donating blood. I was driving home and Apple Maps was telling me keep left to blah blah blah, and I went right, and I was driving, and then it said take a U-turn, blah blah blah. I'm like, why did it take me this stupid way? And I was mad, and I had to go all the way around, and then I realized I went to the right, but my brain was so certain I was going the right way. I was going the way it was telling me to, but of course I wasn't. So then I realized it was my brain's fault, and I have a bad sense of direction, but I didn't know that my brain would have trouble following simple directions. So I need to be aware that my brain is a little bit challenged right now with the lack of blood. And I don't even remember why I was saying that. So yeah, I think I'm going to invest in the iPhone 10. Super expensive, of course, but I do a ton of video editing and doing, and so that is my main expense, and I think it's worth it considering what I do and what I might want to do if I have a more powerful device. And I'm thinking about the Apple Watch. I don't really have a lot of money, but I save on things like clothing by shopping at Value Village, and certain things I've figured out ways to minimize expenses and blah blah blah. So we'll see. I have about a month before I need to order it, and it's kind of exciting. Stay tuned for a talking turd. This is what it looks like afterwards. Doesn't that look good? It's just one of those packets, which is about $3, and the broccoli, which is I don't know how much, and then some goat cheese from Costco. And I eat it all, and I fill myself up nicely. Look at this mountain of wellness. This is a way to eat a lot, stay slim. This is my post blood donation meal. This is a really good combination. Be sure to masticate well. I thought of something I'm going to have to add to this video in the earlier part when it's showing me donate blood. Beware. This video contains graphic acts of altruism. And I was thinking about how maybe people like us who are labeled can show that we're not these crazy, mean, violent people. We have kind hearts, and we're blood donors if we can be, and we think about the world, and we think about the trees, and we think about nature. And I'm thinking a little bit more. And we burp just like everyone else. And I've been thinking about nature since watching the talk on the iPhone 10, because it has augmented reality capabilities. And that's unavoidable. And I've talked to myself about augmented actuality. So if I do gift myself this iPhone 10, I'll continue to move into nature and augment that actuality by paying attention to it. They've created technology where the iPhone can recognize our face, and that's how it unlocks our phone. Well, the trees in nature can recognize our face, and they know if we're looking at it. So technology is not a problem, as long as we continue to remember the nature from where we came from. And entertainment's not a problem if we remember our fellow human beings at the same time. And I've been talking about this to myself along the way a lot, and now I feel like it's time to act on that more. I'm hoping all these videos are acting on that, because it might help someone in some way. And there's a lot more in store. There's a lot of things that I haven't gotten to yet. And near the end of the Apple unveiling talk, the dude mentioned a quote that Steve Jobs quoted when they unveiled the first iPhone or something. And Steve Jobs quoted Wayne Gretzky, who said, "I skate to where the puck is going, not to where the puck has been." And that's part of lifestyle design. Each thing that I design, like this retreat to the island, or going to an information session tomorrow about a business course opportunity, these are skating to where the puck of my attention is going to go, or I want to put my attention on. And it's a creative process. And at the end of the talk, they also mentioned that they have a great hands-on area for exploring their new devices. And as much as we put hands on devices, we need to remember to put hands on nature. And that could be partly related to why in mania sometimes some people feel hypersexual. Perhaps we're reconnecting with wanting to put our hands on something living. And since we're many, many humans on the planet, it's really easy to come across someone, and then when you have that feeling, or when we have that feeling, feel like we want to feel like we want to feel like something living, like in Wall-E, how everyone's disconnected and on their devices. I feel like in map consciousness we are feeling the future. We're feeling the future where we've lost touch with each other even more than we have now. And we're also feeling the future where there's this augmented reality where people are actively engaged in entertainment that is illusion, which is based on virtual reality or augmented reality. And the more that the brain is doing this, when we're in map consciousness and we're connected to eternity, we're tapping into a bit of how our brains are going to be so attuned to this augmented reality. And then our brains start to augment reality in the present now, even though that technology is just emerging. Our brains have the capacity to augment reality as it is. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it makes sense to me. It's similar to how on one side of the world there's wars and all this horrific stuff going on, and then on the other side of the world there's somebody feeling that, yet they're sitting in their living room and then they're diagnosed with a mental illness for feeling what's going on in the collective consciousness. So as there's more augmented reality and virtual reality in the collective consciousness, other people are going to be tapping into that and experiencing that without actually being consciously engaged in it, because we're all one consciousness. And since it's all eternal and one omnipresent, omniscient, whatever, it's already all happened, and it's already happening all now, and we can tap into any of that. So we can tap into all possible futures. And that's part of what's happening in map consciousness. So all that virtual reality and augmented reality stuff has already happened. But it's up to us to balance that with augmented actuality, where nature is going to disappear and we're all going to be living in the cloud without knowing it. And we already are, but there is nature calling us back to the earth. We're likely living in the cloud now, and nature is calling us back to the earth to give us another chance to be with the actual and not technologically mediated reality. And our brain has created a technology, an abstraction of the ego that mediates reality for us to be disconnected, likely because we are all disconnected. We're not living in actuality, we're living in virtual reality. So the ego could be something that's an epiphenomenon of virtual reality and our desire for that. I don't know what I'm talking about. I think it's all the blood loss. So I'm going to get my iPhone X10 and use it to show the beauty of nature, and use it to show that we're not crazy. And yesterday I bought some printer paper because I'm going to be printing off some of the studies on micronutrients that were on the Hardy Nutritionals website. I printed some of them and they seem really good. They seem like what I was talking about already, with how there needs to be longer term comparisons between micronutrients and people on meds. And I haven't read the study yet. I'm probably going to read it on the ferry. But it would be worth going over some of the science on video, because I've talked about my subjective experience. I've talked about wanting to make it to the 9-month mark without a crisis. But there's already science done on people who have tapered off meds and maintained that successfully by taking micronutrients. So I'm hoping to replicate that result in my own life. So along with my application to get these micronutrients funded through the nutrition supplement amount, I'm going to attach a big stack of scientific papers. And yesterday I created a paypal.me link for Synchroversity Wellness. I'm wondering if I should change it to Synchroversity Institute or Synchroversity Foundation. Doesn't really matter for now. And then I thought of creating a page of all my affiliate links and recommended products that I actually use myself. So that way, if people want the same thing and they want everything in one handy dandy place, and they want to buy through my links, they can. And otherwise, I don't have to put on YouTube ads or any other kind of ad that I don't resonate with, especially because I talk so much about how we're programmed and conditioned. So why would I put ads on there to program and condition people? I'll share things from my heart that I resonate with and that I use. But other than that, no. And I'm thinking that when I get the iPhone 10, that might be an opportunity to make more concise videos, because hopefully the quality will be better on the front side camera. So it'll take longer to upload and blah, blah, blah. So up the quality, down the babble. Or I could babble on audio and then, I don't know. I'm not sure when I'll switch to live, to the True Woman show. and make that hallucination come true. Because I was tapping into the future, man. So yeah, the altruistic adaptations, switching from needing more and more pleasure, the hedonic adaptation, to creating more and more connection and more sharing and more giving. And I might have very few possessions that I really need myself, and then the rest I can donate to the Synchroversity learning community. And we also move from the ego algorithm to the creativity algorithm. It's not retrospecting, but it's going to where the puck will be, which is the creativity algorithm, as opposed to going to where the puck is or was, which is how the ego operates. It accesses its memory bank in order to project a pattern onto the present moment to determine how to act. And I created a term, neurofluidity. I feel like even though neuroplasticity is a new topic, not new, but it's kind of a ravey, hyped up thing right now. Since science is usually 20 years behind, because it takes 20 years for the science to come out and then 20 years before they actually start talking about it, I created a term, neurofluidity. We don't want our brains to be plastic. We don't want them to be congealed together in any way, shape, or form. We want them to be fluid. So if we practice something and we're trying to create a habit or a pattern, imagine the neurons connecting like this. So now as we're meeting the moment, we're projecting this pattern that we've programmed ourselves to operate with onto that moment. It might not be adequate for that moment. We're missing information because we're acting according to a program. Whereas with neurofluidity, we've decontrived ourselves so much that the brain cells are constantly moving. They're fluid. They're a liquid crystal. They're not congealed together in any way. So whatever is needed in the moment, whatever the moment requires, is how we move, and not the pattern or habit that we've created as this is what we require, which we likely got from somebody else as an idea. It's not original, it's not new, it's not creative. So the new way is neurofluidity. And part of designing the magical backpack is to be more fluid in life. Embodied neurofluidity. And I remember thinking of an idea to create an app to help a person harvest their mania when they go into that state. And I think the magical notebook could be turned into an app as well. And it's based on the magical backpack and perceiving magically, creatively. So neurofluidity is going from having beliefs and programs and conditioning and habits, which we then project on the moment, to having none of that. So habits, patterns, conditioning, beliefs gets replaced by perception, action. Or I changed harvest, practice, embody to harvest, perception, gesture with a hyphen, and then embody. So the perception is without projecting a belief or a pattern or a habit, and then the clear perception without projecting that virtual reality of the past onto the present creates a gesture. And then we can be creative, and it's not about behavior, which sounds like something that is attributed to a self, but a gesture is discontinuous. We can change our gesture at any moment, and the gesture depends on the moment. So all of a sudden, instead of behaving or having a habit, which I might have 10 habits or something, so I have a very limited number of possibilities, limited degrees of freedom of how I can act. And now when I don't have that operating, I have infinite degrees of freedom, because I can look at anything in reality and act on that or gesture towards that. And I can choose my gesture. So now there's an infinity available in each moment. And this is augmented actuality. And then it becomes fun to be in a human body and have best operating system in the known world. So the next part after harvest, perception, gesture, and body is ABC, which is altruism, beauty, and creativity. And those things are interrelated. So I see my brain putting this into a more simple something. It's a formula of no formula. Getting close. And last night I saw an ad by Let's Talk, and what it said was pretty shocking. It's something that I might ask for myself. This is an interesting ad. More than just psychiatry. The universe is listening, even though I haven't shared this with anybody. So my brain is starting to tune in to some of the fun things, like the magical backpack, the magical crap mail out. And this is good timing because it'd be cool to make the business I create around that and leave the dreary mental health stuff to people that are doing a great job at that. And it's not bad, it's part of the evolution of this. And the mental health stuff is great. People doing open dialogue, spiritual immersion stuff, it's all necessary. But I want to create something that is 10 years ahead. In 10 years, what is this going to be like? People will be transforming. People will be living in their augmented actuality instead of this reality toned down by the virtual reality of the ego, and then we need to buy all this augmented reality, which is an augmented virtual reality. We're just making everything more virtual. I see people getting high on the beauty of nature. B, I see people getting high on the oxytocin of altruism. A, I see people creatively designing their life and living creatively in every single moment. C, I see people speaking in dialogue with each other. D, I see people epi-gesturing their life and informing the cosmos with our gestures of our own body. The whole cosmos calculates every moment. E for eternity, G for genius. H for heart-centered happiness first. And the lights just got brighter, they agree. I don't know when that happened. I remember turning on the lights for someone else. I was talking to them over MSN video. This was a long time ago. And I felt like I could look in a certain way, in a way of love, and they changed. And all of a sudden they were effervescent and bright. Kind of like now this screen is. I don't know how that happened. So maybe I just did it for myself. I don't know. Who cares? I'll forget about it. It's funny because a friend texted me and said he had a dream where he was looking for this source of light and it was coming from himself. And I was going to send him a video message when I took that clip of me by the river, and it looked like I had a light tattoo. And the way he described the dream was sort of similar to that scenario, and I was thinking of doing a message to him, but then I just was struck by the light, and then now the screen's really lit up. One consciousness. I think, too, the universe is happy with me for donating blood.
Look, Mom, I ate all my broccoli.
I was wondering why they didn't give me a sticker that said, "Be nice to me, I donated blood today," because they changed it. And I just took off the bandage to wash off the chlorhexidine. I think next time I'm going to ask for iodine. And it's stinging, and it started to bleed again. At least I have this cool band-aid. One of my favorite movie star heroes, or movie character heroes, is Forrest Gump, because he made so much happen without even trying. And this is a documentary. And someone might ask me, why did you talk to yourself for 2 years? And I'll say, I just felt like talking. I just felt like talking. I just felt like talking. I'm pretty much ready to go on my trip to the island, and I am not good at packing light. I had to be better at it when I went to California because I took the train, but I'm taking my little 1992 Toyota Corolla, so I have everything in the kitchen sink. I have my magical backpack, I have my little bit better camera, there's snacks in there, there's my zap strap, there's my PRN, there's all my hearty nutritional, very, very important stuff, and then I have some of the documents I want to bring. I'm bringing my Muse headband to see what it's like using it there, and all my toiletries. I would probably not bring my hair straightener if I didn't have space. I didn't bring it to California, but I kind of like straightening my hair and having it nice and smooth. And then towel and some boots and some hiking shoes, and I'm going to wear my Toms. And a sleeping bag in case it's not warm enough. It's an older place, and I don't want to be freezing and ask for a million blankets. So I want to be prepared. And food, bringing some protein powder, some rice, and my favorite sauces, but I'll try and get some veggies over there to go with it if I can, and more clothes, and 2 jackets because it might be cold and I'm going on that forest walk. So a lot of this is in order to avoid being cold. This jacket, that extra warm underlayer shirts and things. So yeah, hopefully next year this problem will be solved because I'll be going somewhere warm in the winter and not hanging around cold Canada. So maybe I'll go into more detail about what I packed when I get there, and I have more to talk about on the journey. I just took another dose of hearty nutritionals because this morning I could have barfed part of mine up. I took some haritaki powder with the coconut milk, and then I chased it with a gulp of smoothie, and I immediately felt so nauseous, and it might have been partly because of donating blood, but it could have just been, that stuff made me feel a bit nauseous before, but not so nauseous that I thought I was going to barf, and I'm not a barfer at all. So I went to the washroom and I threw it all up. I threw up the bite of smoothie, I threw up the haritaki powder, and might have thrown up a little bit of my micronutrients. So yeah, good to know that that stuff makes me a bit nauseous. I might have to buy some capsules so then the taste doesn't hit my throat. I'm not sure. Or maybe my body just doesn't want to do a pineal cleanse right now. I'm not sure. There's the womanic mobile.
That is a lot of stuff for 5 days.
I'm off. So I made it to the ferry terminal. Now I have a little while to wait to get on the ferry, and it's a gorgeous day. Perfect temperature. And when I was driving, I was thinking about how it seems like my life has moved away from abstraction and more into action. And I was figuring I would eventually talk myself into that. Here I am taking a nice little weekend trip, 5-day trip. Again, not having to worry about being near a major hospital or anything like that. Yet I still have my zap strap for safety. Can't remember if I showed this, but I actually shoved a zap strap in a bottle with some of the PRNs. You can see the zap strap there at the top, all coiled up, and then PRNs in the bottom. So this is an emergency case. I can just pop it open and have the zap strap and PRNs if I need it. But that's really far. But that's really far away in my mind now, since taking these micronutrients. And I've been thinking a little bit about business again, because yesterday was a life-changing day. I went to an information session on a business class that I have access to because I'm on disability for having barriers to full-time employment. And it's really cool because one can self-identify as that and they don't ask questions. Even if they did ask questions, it would be easy to prove, because it's not just about disability, it's also about barrier. So blah blah blah. But the information session was really good, and I want to take the class starting in mid-November, and it goes for 10 weeks, and then there's 25 weeks or something of support with a business advisor, mentor person. So interestingly enough, I asked somebody at the clubhouse if there's any kind of business help, and then I went to the clubhouse the next time and saw the poster about this business stuff. So it seems like when I need some kind of help from the universe, it's there. So not surprised. So I feel like these next months, I do want to focus on seeing if I can create some kind of business out of my ideas. And so it's looking like I won't do the out-of-town full-time job at this point, because I want to have the opportunity to see if I can create something. Some of the things that I've talked about all along, and I don't really know how to put it into a business, and this could be an opportunity to do that. So yesterday was life-changing. I'm going to work on the application for that program, and the program helps create a business plan. So that's really cool. I'm pretty excited about that. And I was thinking about the business and how the 10 weeks of that class ends pretty close to the time when it's 9 months for me on micronutrients only. So the launch of the business will be around that time, and then hopefully I'd be launching something regarding, well, you can transcend, you can thrive, you can go from survivor to thriver, you can design the life of your dreams. And I'm thinking of framing it around life coaching, because I did do a course for that, and it's something that one can easily do. So I'm thinking about creating a more succinct course as part of the business, because in order to be approved for the course, the business course, one has to have some kind of thing that one wants to do and have it kind of ready to go. Ideas that are actionable. So from now until the time when the class starts, I will have to get that sort of stuff in order, and this will provide some motivation in order to do so. And I was also thinking about how these last weeks I've noticed that I can get, the word for it is triggered, quite a lot but I don't really love the word trigger. I was thinking it's more that my allostatic load can build up really quickly because I'm hypersensitive. And being hypersensitive, something can get to me really quickly and easily depending on the time of day and other things that have happened. And it's up to me to diffuse that allostatic load by, say, going to the park or something like that, and not take that out on other people around me, even though it could be the other people around me watching noisy TV that is bothering me. Stuff like that. So abstraction to action, diffusing allostatic load, business, and I'm thinking about maybe partnering with some people who can do certain aspects and referring to them, because it's really about total wellness and wellness transformation and transforming from a mental patient to magic and manic mastery. So it's a total transformation. So I was thinking that I could create the course, release the course, and then share the backstory, which is all the little dialogues in the future. Because I was thinking about maybe it's not great to release something that is so anti-med system at this point. I don't know. I'm just talking to myself like usual. So I probably won't be doing much peer support. And another thing I want to do is see if I can influence the weather. I took a screenshot before I left, and I'm thinking that I want to change the weather so it's nicer while I'm there. Focusing on that now. And so while I'm on the ferry, I want to read the micronutrient studies, and I also want to look at the application for this business program thingamajiggy. So much to do now, but I feel really inspired to do so, so that's good. And again, I think that going from being a chronic mental patient to manic mastery also includes perhaps creating some kind of business so one has freedom in one's life, in one's epigenetic matrix. Because that's one thing I feel that's missing a little bit, is if we recover, I don't like that word, to recover back into mainstream structures, it's not really going with what that original blueprint was telling us to do. So it's not complete. So that's the part I want to work on. Love you. Beautiful day. Hey look, I already did that. Hey look, they sell the Muse headband on the ferry in a Best Buy vending machine. That's kind of cool. What a beautiful ride. And this study is really good. I read 3 of the 4 micronutrient studies on the ferry, and boy, are they good. I'll talk about them later, but it seems like in those studies, the micronutrients worked for 50% of the people with 50% reduction in symptoms. It's more complicated than that, but I'll go over that when I get a chance. And just about to dock. And I gotta Google map where I'm going and figure that out. This is a life-changing moment. I'm at my destination and I'm not sure how I'm ever going to leave. And this is important to meet life, especially after one is newly clear and off medications, because each moment of life will alter what's next. I was looking through the document about that business course, and just being in this place here right now makes me realize that I want to make it an online thing, because I'd be tempted to make some kind of location. It doesn't mean there won't be a location one day, but initially, being able to be at places like this, it's so quiet. I feel my being in a bit of shock. Like, wow, this is so beautiful, this is so perfect. And that's something I was thinking about on the drive here after reading those studies on micronutrients, and wondering why, in those studies at least, it showed that 50% of people did well on micronutrients. That's oversimplifying it. But 50% of people had a 50% symptom reduction in general. And I'm wondering, well, what would lead to not having more symptom reduction and things like that? And I think part of it, and I'm just making this up, is lifestyle design. And what I mean is, me being on micronutrients now, I'm living with some family, and I find that I do bump into things that all of a sudden I feel like it might be a, quote, mood. But I don't think I'm meant to live in a basement with family so close to me. So that's not necessarily my mood, but lack of lifestyle design. So what I'm saying is, no amount of meds or micronutrients is going to help a person if their life is in, for example, their parents' basement suite. So is it mood or is it lifestyle design? And one can be aware of these micro events and then go into a micro lifestyle design. For me, for example, as soon as I feel like, oh my gosh, it's too much, something is too much, I don't know exactly what it is, or I do know what it is, who cares about figuring out what it is? Do a micro lifestyle design, get to the forest. Doesn't take long before it's gone. Ideally, I could live near or in a forest all the time, but since that's not possible, until I've designed my life where I'm moving about where I'd like and decide maybe where I want to be most of the time, I need to micro lifestyle design. So as soon as I feel like the allostatic load has built up, it's almost like the activation energy. It's like things are okay. There's some kind of rule in biology where there has to be, in enzymatics, the enzymes help to catalyze the reaction, so there's not as much energy needed to activate that reaction. And if there is no enzyme, there needs to be enough activation energy. And when there is enough activation energy, or there is an enzyme, it goes like this, and then it goes, it spikes up like crazy. It's not da 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 da. So I feel like there's something going on in this highly sensitive person where things are fine, and then all of a sudden there's some kind of catalyst to make that allostatic load really spike. And it could be time, it could be, I'm not sure, maybe I need to forest bathe daily in order to have nature and the energy of Gaia bring down that allostatic load. So micro lifestyle designing throughout the day, because it's one thing to think, well, in 3 months I'll have this and I'll live here and it'll be great, but one can go crazy in the meantime if one doesn't micro lifestyle design, go places that might be closer to one's ideal scenario on a daily basis or something like that. So yeah, this place is extremely beautiful and peaceful, and yeah, I'm gonna sit here for a bit. I was trying to find a place to get some broccoli to make my broccoli and Indian sauce, but I feel so hungry. I think it's partly blood donation. I think it's partly just the cycle of the month where I'm the most hungry. So I got this. A veggie wrap and fries to celebrate being in this peaceful beauty. I'm hungry. This place is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I feel dizzy. I don't even know where to start. I forgot I bought some saltwater taffy. I haven't had this stuff in years. Vanilla. Mr. Sun, Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, please shine down on me. Oh, Mr. Sun, Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, setting behind the trees. some otters came and peeked up at me a little while ago. One peeked up and then the other peeked up from behind a rock. They're definitely scoping me out. And then I saw an otter in the water and I waved at him. Thought he might come up and say hi, but he didn't. Maybe later. I'm still feeling stunned by the beauty and the silence. My epigesturetic matrix feels decontrived, like I don't know what the next move is. Don't know what the next movement will be, because the possible possibilities have changed with the change in the environment. Where are the habits now? Let's watch the sunset together. Oh my gosh. There he is already. Look at him. It's a seal. I just said they were going to come and scope me out. That didn't take long. I wonder if they want to hear the love whistle. That seal came to watch the sunset with me. See, the sun's still there, just a little bit. I said they were going to come visit me, and then one popped up and visited me. He was a big one, though, trying to call him back with the love whistle. There he is. So today is another life-altering day. I'm about to do a forest bathing walk. And I'm really excited, but I'm really tired. I think the blood donation is kicking my ass. So today is another possibly life-altering day. Wednesday was because I learned about the self-employment entrepreneurship program. Yesterday, because I saw a beautiful place. Today has indeed been another life-altering, trajectory-changing day, as I've designed it to be. Didn't happen by accident. I just did the forest bathing walk, and it was magical and beautiful. And I realized that in the business plan I'm going to create, could definitely integrate mindful forest bathing walks into the plan. Because I remember talking with myself about the opposites of so-called psychosis. The forest and nature is definitely an opposite of that, and by immersing ourselves in some of the opposites, a lot of it falls away, so that perhaps we don't need to engage so much in the human contrivances that are designed to help us heal through some of these things. And part of the reason why we have so many abstractions and distractions in our mind is because we're not connected with nature. We don't have a relationship with nature. And nature is something so real and sane. And when we don't have a relationship with it, more unreal abstractions and thoughts can get to us. They can build up. And I do want to create something where I'm free to be in the forest. So perhaps the part, if I do anything live in person, would be in the forest. Maybe one can work from the forest. I'm finding that I need to go into the forest to decrease my allostatic load. So I could be stressed out and I could take a pill, which I haven't done in a long time, or I could go into the forest and it takes it all away. It's magic, but it's not magic. There's so much energy and immensity and electrons. And I didn't put on my earthing shoe thing. That's something I'm going to put into my magical backpack. That's something that could be in people's magical backpack, is the ability to be connected to the earth. Because when we're connected to the earth, the electrons in the earth go into our body, and then those electrons are used to reduce free radicals, which is something we take vitamins for. But by getting electrons from the earth, those are used preferentially to the vitamins, so then the vitamins can go and do something else. I introduced myself to a tree and I left one strand of my hair hanging from her bark so she can remember me and we can continue to communicate. It's really hard to leave the forest. Can you hear the sound of the maple leaves tickling each other? I forgot to bring this with me in the forest, but I'm going to add it to my magical backpack because this connects to the earth. It's rubber that is grounded and then connects to the string and then connects to the skin. So then one is connected to the earth and gets the benefits of earthing. That looks fun. I'm not sure why I went this way on this path, but I might have just found an eagle feather. I don't know if that's what it is. I'll have to consult my eagle feather consultant to know for sure. And I'm becoming aware of lifestyle design factors. I've talked about happiness first with myself and
feel like part of happiness is nature. Nature is joy itself. Perhaps nature first?
I got an email today from Jamie Wheel's Flow Genome Project, and they sent some interesting links, and one of them was about how new discovery might change psychiatry. And it's an article by Science Mag online, and I read it, and it's really fascinating. It talked about something that I've never heard of before, which is that serotonin acts on about 14 different receptors, and the pharmaceutical drugs that work on serotonin, particularly the SSRIs, work on receptor number 1. But the second receptor has something more to do with what psychedelics act on. And the article said that the pharmaceutical drugs act on receptor 1 and actually suppress receptor 2. And I found that fascinating. I find that a little bit too convenient. I find that to be purposeful. Because if the second receptor is the one that leads to changing context, and I can't remember how they described it, I'll have to look. So the article is called Rethinking Serotonin Could Shift Psychiatric Care, or something like that. I forget already. That's the thing with not having a second screen. And so it talks about how psychedelics like psilocybin and LSD are thought to act on receptor 2. And it says something about how current treatments promote receptor 1A activity, often suppressing 2A activity. And so the therapeutic benefit of activating 2A has been overlooked. I doubt it's been overlooked. That seems very purposeful, because it's saying that 1A helps people cope, which is getting stuck in it, coping with it, whereas 2A might have something to do with the transformative effect, because they're saying LSD, psilocybin, and psychedelics activate that activity of 2A. And of course, read the article if you want to have it exactly right, because I'm just talking about it with myself. Activating serotonin 2A may be a good thing, as it makes individuals very sensitive to context and their environment. I think this is partly what is happening in map consciousness, as we are having that receptor activated because we are more sensitive to our environment and our context, which is part of how it makes us want to change our environment or our context and live a different life, because we're seeing things differently. And it says this is how psychedelics work. They make people sensitive to context and open to change via activating the 2A receptor. And they say something so fascinating in the article. They say the 1A and the 2A receptors have a two-pronged approach. So serotonin acting on the 1A can help us reduce the stress of a situation and we become more resilient. But sometimes that's not enough. So then the serotonin acts on the 2A receptor, and that in extreme crisis, the 2A pathway kicks in to open up a window of plasticity in which fundamental changes in outlook and behavior can occur. Now, to me, this is exactly what's happening when one goes into transformational crisis. Maybe one has had some kind of trauma and then the stress builds up, and simply coping and being resilient in the situation isn't enough. So then serotonin can act on the 2A pathway, which changes the whole context. It opens up this window of plasticity, and that's a great way to describe it. So it's a process of exploring and learning new behaviors, completely new, and no wonder sometimes it's challenging to adapt to that And when that window of plasticity starts closing, one gets reacquainted with old behaviors, and that can be traumatic in itself, because we had access to new adaptive ways of being, and sometimes those retreat and recede from our possibilities, as maybe that 2A receptor pathway is starting to not be active anymore. It seems like more of an emergency. One needs to change one's behaviors or will no longer be in existence. It's really fascinating. I really like that article. I'm going to print it off. Makes a lot of sense. And that's the thing too, it makes sense with what I've been talking about with myself, and that's usually what happens is I'm talking with myself about something, and then I find something confirming it in what is reaching out to me or what I reach out to, is that taking some kind of med can help one cope with a crappy situation. So it's making one able to cope and resilient and keep the situation mostly the same. And so if one starts to take micronutrients or something and the situation stays the same, then all the nutrients are going to help one cope and be resilient. And there's another aspect, which is this window of plasticity, this opening up to new ways of looking and new ways of being and new behavior. So in my mind, if that pathway opens up in map consciousness of having new outlooks and new behaviors, new manic or magic traits, when one switches to micronutrients or whatever, one still needs to participate in lifestyle design, in changing one's epigenetic matrix. And I just realized there could be an epiperceptual matrix, which is new ways of seeing, which changes the ways of behavior. So there's a perceptual matrix related to the epigenetic matrix, which is playing with new perceptions, creating new perceptions, and creating new gestures and behaviors. So instead of having access to, say, 100 gestures, maybe now we have access to 10,000. And it's up to us, because that can become overwhelming, it's up to us to prune out in the lifestyle design process. And that's why I feel like lifestyle design goes hand in hand with this, because it's not about creating new gestures to do those gestures alone in one's room in a basement suite. It's to go out and interface with actuality. So that's changing the environment too. So being in this environment in nature right now as I am, I found a stump to sit on. Acts like a chair. I found perhaps an eagle feather, maybe a different kind of feather, and it changes the epigenetic matrix. It changes the epi-perceptual matrix, what I'm able to see, the subtleties, the beauty, the creativity of nature, and how this energy changes me, it changes my brain fundamentally. So if that second serotonin pathway, the 2A pathway, is to change outlook and behavior, and we have this mechanism within us that doesn't require meds, but sometimes it gets activated in, say, so-called mania, changes our perception, our outlook, our behavior. Even when that process ends and we end up medicated or something, and then years later discover something like micronutrients, we can still co-create and participate in designing new perceptions and gestures. Perceptions, outlook. Behavior, gestures. So there's a perceptual gesturetic matrix. If we can see differently, we're going to gesture differently. We do different gestures in a forest than we do in a city. We do very limited gestures by ourselves, isolated in a room. And it seems like after some kind of crisis, where, say, we have a habitual life, we have a routine, then there's some kind of crisis that comes in and shows us that We can't keep going like that because there was trauma within what we thought was safety of our habits and routines. So then it could lead to us feeling like we need to create a new kind of life that's not safe anymore, that little habitual thing. So that's complicated. I don't want to go into that per se, but I can see this epi-perceptual gesturetic matrix. I like the word perception and gesture better than outlook and behavior, because an outlook sounds like it's something that continues in time for a long period of time. Like, oh, I changed my outlook and now I'm going to cling on to that and keep that for the next 10 years. And behaviors sound like, oh, that's that person's behaviors. That's how they are. There's this behavior, that behavior. And behaviors sounds like something we've already predetermined in society. Like bad behavior and good behavior and what falls in each category. Whereas gestures are micro behaviors. It can be something so small, like a gesture is a smile. You wouldn't call smiling or a smile a behavior. Though they have the behavior of smiling. But we can break it down even further into little tiny gestures. And when we're moving at the level of micro gestures, then we're not extending that into this long pattern of a so-called behavior that a self is doing. Because a gesture is related to perception. I perceive someone walking by, I smile, it's over. Whereas a behavior is more of this long pattern carried out by a self. Whereas a perception gesture is a response, an action congruent with the moment. So, for example, if I'm not on the path of my light body self, and I'm feeling the stress of that, and I'm working in some kind of meaningless job, then I'm going to maybe have this long, drawn-out behavior ritual of going through McDonald's drive-thru every day. So that's a behavior. It's a pattern. It's in response to the stress of not living out one's truth. Whereas a small gesture in the moment isn't that. So yeah, I don't know what I'm saying exactly, but I can kind of see something. The more I gesture towards nature, the more I might create a behavior, a supposed behavior of being in the forest. So yeah, that's a great article. And I don't have the greatest Wi-Fi connection here, so I need to find out if I can find one that will upload some of this to the cloud so I have more space. Otherwise, I should probably switch to audio. This might mean I'm officially shamanic, humanic. Calling to the ocean animals. Maybe they can hear the love whistle through the water. also created an update of my side-by-side photo and made it a side-by-side because the third one is completely medication-free. Is this a good idea? Nature mysticism for mental health. Can micronutrients help us reconnect with nature? Reconnect with something actual? I was listening to myself talk about the window of plasticity in the Science Mag online article, and it made me think of how hallucinations, so-called hallucinations and delusions, are really new plasticity of soundscape and sightscape. Instead of having the same thoughts looping in one's head over and over all day long, and those participating in projecting so-called perceptions. Most of our perceptions are projections of these inner soundscapes and inner images. So when we go into map consciousness, we have not a window of plasticity, but a whole soundscape and sightscape and visionscape of plasticity. It all becomes plastic as our brains become neurofluid. So it would be more of a fluidity of soundscapes and sightscapes. And one of the reasons is because we're seeing new, we're seeing fresh without our inner projections. So then seeing new produces inner sounds that are new, which we've never heard before, which we might associate and feel like we're hearing it in somebody else's voice. And it can turn into feeling like that is very true when we're not understanding this process, this fluidity of soundscapes and perceptionscapes. We go from deceptionscapes of our inner thoughts, the ones that are programmed and conditioned and congealed in our brain, to fluid, new, creative perceptionscapes and soundscapes and insightscapes as opposed to thoughtscapes. And we reach escape velocity from the atrocity of our conditioning. I can't really make too many videos because of Wi-Fi connection limiting upload to the cloud, which means that the videos take up space on my phone. But something happened that is good, in quotes. It's sort of the equivalent of at least for me in my life right now, if I were a film producer, having the Academy Awards board reviewing it. And I won't go into the details. There's a few things that I can't really go into the details right now. Those are for later, but it invokes some fear because of the all-overness of my life trajectory. And here I am in one of the most beautiful places again. And feeling like I probably didn't get here by accident. And all the things that could be called bad are what partly created this moment now, which is seemingly good. So the supposed bad is a part of the supposed good. And I had a big cabbage for dinner with the Indian sauce. And then I was still feeling hungry even though I'm so full. And I think it's that time of the month. So I ate a bunch of chocolates and I ate some gummy frogs. So I'm feeling really full. I'm feeling pulled in many different directions. Feeling really hungry, tired from blood donation. sharing this, doing that, creating this, business plan, not taking the out-of-town job, at least right now. So many different possibilities. And then after hearing this good news, I guess, it is good, but I don't know, it's complicated. And I need to figure out how to resolve this complicated part. And then in thinking, I need to figure out how to resolve this complicated part, just adds another complication to this next phase of creation. I'm wondering if I could create another stand-up comedy routine to encapsulate that. I feel like there's so many things on the go, yet I'm starting to feel stuck, unable to gesture them into creation, not knowing which to create first. And this isn't necessarily a problem. It perhaps means going into stillness and nothingness and non-doing. And deep forgetfulness. And dying to it all, really. Why do I worry what this might mean for myself? Could be good feedback that people like my videos. And I was thinking more deeply about this business and how I do struggle connecting with people sometimes, because what we connect over is pretty lame, like TV or things like that. And I get enamored by the texture of a leaf. So in saying that and realizing that, it might be fun to connect with people in relationship to nature, in developing a relationship with nature. Developing a relationship with silence. I really don't know. I feel a sense of deep, I don't know-ness, of the mind feeling like maybe it knew something and going through the process of dying to that and forgetting. Look where I am. I'm just a human brain looking. Listening. feeling the wind blow on my face.